Hello all, and thanks for tuning in. In this video I'll be covering the Super Game Boy Underclock modification that I've done to my cartridge here. I made a few mistakes and learned a few things. I arrived at a pretty effective and clean way to do it. The original design for the underclock circuit came from the Sega 16 forums. I don't have the exact information on that at the moment, but it was pretty readily found with a Google search. If you do Super Game Boy Underclock modification or something to that effect, the Sega 16 forum will pop up pretty close to the top there. Anyways, the general consensus of opinion, and it certainly does work that way, but the general consensus of opinion is that pins 73 and 74 need to be lifted in order for this modification to work. And as you can see here, I've not done that. Not in the final iteration anyways. You'll see part of the video where I started with lifting pin 74. I never lifted pin 73 because I'd learned that was actually not connected to anything, so there'd be no reason to lift it. But then I later found out that you really don't need to lift pin 74 either, and you can just cut a trace and wire it up around that. So that's definitely a lot easier and a lot cleaner. And in this case, I've added a switch so I can switch between the two. And so please take a look at the video and see if you find it interesting. It was certainly fun to do, and I'm glad that it's working now. This is a brief, before we go over to the other video clips that will be no doubt haphazardly spliced together to make a video. This is the basic diagram of what's happening here and basic instructions that I followed. So let's keep that on screen, so you make sure you get a stable point to pause it if you like. Pretty basic stuff. Yeah, and right, on to the video. It's a bit of a mess, but is the commonly known underclock fix. Super Game Boy runs at the same, runs off the Super Nintendo's internal clock, and due to some mathematics and other stuff I don't understand, it boils down to being not quite the right clock speed. It's a multiple of 5 or something like that. Anyways, it's not quite the right clock speed, and they didn't see fit, manufacturing cost savings wise, I'm sure, to put a proper crystal in there. So you got to do it yourself if you want your Game Boy games to run at the proper speed on the Super Game Boy. And then because this modification does or would break the functionality of the Super Game Boy Commander controller, where you can manipulate the clock speeds and stuff to, you can go like half speed and stuff like that. So that only works with the with an unmodified cartridge. It won't, once you put the crystal in there, that breaks the functionality of that. So because I do own a couple of those controllers and I do like to use them, I decided to put in a little switch and an additional few other connections to allow me to switch between the normal slightly overclocked speed and the corrected speed. So I have a little dip switch there. If it's kind of chewed up, didn't make the hole quite as clean as I might have liked, but it's not too bad. Especially when you're looking at it front on it, you hardly notice anything unusual, any chips or anything. So anyways, I just literally got done putting this all together. I'm going to put another couple pieces of Captain tape on there to make sure nothing pulls out. On most instructional, not necessarily videos, but just guides for this mod, say you should lift pins 73 and 74. And after doing some research, pin 73 is actually not connected to anything. It's just a blank pin, basically. So yeah, normally lifting pin 73 is completely unnecessary, and I've learned that you don't really need to, I went ahead and did it anyways, but then after the fact I learned that you don't really need to lift pin 74 either. So that is definitely the hardest part of this project, and if you could avoid it, that would be probably something good to avoid. Right. So, pin 74 ends up connecting to pin 3 of this chip over here. It goes through a via to the other side of the circuit board and pops up, I think, actually under this chip. And anyways, so as you can see there, instead of trying to, because I did unfortunately lift the pad on pin 74 there. So my plan before was to just cleanly lift pin 74, connect my original wire, for the original circuit to the pad, and then connect the overclock. Right. Anyways, pin 3 of this chip is normally feeding over to the clock signal to pin 74. So you could just instead of having to lift the pin, you could just cut the trace. And even if you wanted to have the switch, you would only have to do what I've done here and add just another wire for the switched leg directly to the third pin. So, or you could just basically lifting the two pins isn't necessary. That's at the end of the day, that's the thing to take away from here. You can just cut the trace, go into pin 3 here, and be good to go. And then you wire directly to pin 74, because then nothing's going to be going this way. So that would work. And if I do another one of these for a customer or something, I will definitely go that route rather than trying to risk junking their whole CPU, because it is. Let's see, that one connected very nicely, nice and cleanly there. Nothing's in its way. Good. Focus, you fuck. Anyways, so then there is so to explain the circuit briefly, it's pretty simple. You get the crystal oscillator of the right frequency. It is 4.194 something like that. Information on that is readily available. There's also a 1 million ohm resistor and 2 little 33 picofarad capacitors. Basically, the capacitors are across. Focus, you fuck. So the capacitors are across one leg each of the crystal, and I'm sure that's not focusing properly. I'm sure of it. Oh, fuck. You get my camera back. Maybe you can kind of see it there. Anyways, it's quite a cluster. But you have the resistors across the crystal, and then the capacitors are across one leg of the crystal and to ground. So you can assemble those components elsewhere. I decided to put them on a little remote circuit board like that. Makes it a little cleaner. I'll glue it over somewhere cleanly. These wires are probably a bit long. This is my first attempt at it, so I left everything long. Might trim it up if that's easy to do, or might just fold it if it doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna get another little piece of Captain tape on this wire here. Is that pin 73's connection? So pin 73 and 74 go up here to this circuit board, in case you didn't mention that. And then the ground connection. That's about. There's tons of ground connections on the on this circuit board here, but fucking hell, that one right there is about as easy as it gets. It's right on the corner of the chip there and stuff. So as he secured everything down with Captain tape and a bit of hot glue for the switch. I don't like that as much. It seems secure, but probably end up again in the future. Probably drill a couple little extra holes and put some tiny little bolts through there. Actually, it would be a bolt because it has a nut on it. It's a very small bolt. It's not a screw. Anyways, so yeah, I'm going to mount this up and maybe clean it up a little bit, and then we'll plug it in and test it, I imagine. Now I have a funny story for you. So I got all done with this little modification here. Got everything all secured where I liked it. Got the wires reasonably in order. Put it all together. Turn it on with my trusty copy of Quarth, which has been my test game for as long as I've had it. I mean, it's been the game I usually keep it in the Super Game Boy. Actually, it's just like I use it as kind of a dust cap even. So I get all done, put it together, pop in Quarth, the little flash screen comes up with the Super Game Boy, getting all excited, and then you just get a blank tan colored screen, which means the game is not booting. So pull it out. I clean the contacts on here, which were pretty dirty. I clean the contacts on here, which weren't really very dirty at all. Plug it back in, switch it on, and I get nothing again. So, and then keep in mind this is in either of the switch positions. So the first one should be the factory position. The one at the top should be the original unmodified, and then down should be my circuit. It didn't work on either of them. And I think there maybe more than one issue going on here. But as it turns out, my copy of Quarth died a silent death, and I got all frustrated and a little bit. Didn't want to wreck my. Thought I got all upset thinking I had wrecked a perfectly good Super Game Boy, just fucking about. And as it turns out, it's fine. Put everything back to factory. Actually, even with the lifted pin on pin 74 there, I lifted the pad when I pulled it, but I managed to get it reattached to the pad somehow. So that's all. It's all back to factory again. It works fine. But it was my copy of Quarth that suffered a silent death. I reflowed the joints on that, and it works again now. So now I'm suspect that I may have done something wrong with my circuit here too, because it gave me kind of a different. When I had it connected up, it booted the Super Game Boy screen, and then it was just black. And then when it was in the factory position, the screen went tan, like it was trying to boot the game. But so I don't know. I'm gonna look at this again, review the instructions I have, and then maybe we'll hook it back up. I will almost certainly not be lifting any pins again, because that's just too risky. So I will be using the no pin lift method next time, if there is a next time. So yeah, funny, haha, hoo. I hope you laughed as much as I did. Okay, I think I finally got this thing put back together. In my haste, I may have taken it apart a little too quick, because nothing. I double checked the circuit, nothing was really wrong. But this switch was not engaging. I guess I hot glued it a little too much. So, wagging the finger there. Yeah, I should have probably checked that before I tore it apart. But that gave me an opportunity to go ahead and do a little cleaner routing here, and what I would say is definitely easier and definitely the way I'm going to do it next time. Looking at here is the bottom side of it. Nothing changed on the front side. Ground connections in the same place. The only thing that's we no longer have is we only have one wire connecting to the pin of 73, which is unlifted, and pin 74 stayed glued back down. Like I said, I managed to get the pad managed to get the pad resecured. So it was connecting back over to the pin 3 of this auxiliary chip over here, which is what this via is right here, and that's where I'm going to be doing these connections in the future. Over here is the connection for pin 74. So that via right there is pin 74, and that via right there is pin 3. So all you have to do is cut the trace between there, which I did really close to the pin 3 via. Kind of see a little spot on the circuit board, it's a little scraped up there. So I just simply cut that trace and then wired the this one, pin 3 of this chip, which is the normal clock speed. So that's going to the high terminal on the switch, which is higher speed. I figured higher on the cartridge, higher speed, right? The center is the common pin, which is pin 70, or the common terminal, which is connected to pin 74, because obviously we're always going to be feeding a signal to pin 74, and that's this wire over here. So that's pin 74, so that's wired up to the center terminal of the switch, and then the high speed's connected there, and then the low speed is connected to one of these two wires here. One of them, the one on the outside is 73, one on the other outside is 74, and then the center is the ground connection. So yeah, that should be working now. I know my cartridge is working as well. I'll be able to pop it all together real quick and give it a little test. Here we go. Got the Super Game Boy here, and we have it in the factory position here, which is 2.4% faster or something like that. It's a little bit overclocked, and Quarth is maybe not the best game to show the speed difference. Something with a good music tune, but there's music in this game too. So this is the normal speed. Controller here. Alright, so that I'm not quite brave enough to switch it on the fly yet. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, if it'll appreciate that or not. But so we'll go down here, flip the switch down to the low speed, or the proper speed. See that it does work now. Before I'd just get a black screen there. It would show the trim, but not the. It wouldn't do the Super Game Boy flat splash screen there. I don't know if you can. I can definitely tell a little slight tone change in the music. I don't know how well that comes over the video, but it's not huge, but it's definitely noticeable. I think it's a slightly deeper tone now. Anyways, so that's it. Said I'm not sure how much this will affect the gameplay or whatever. Actually, I'm guessing it's going to be pretty minimal, especially if you're used to playing it on the Super Game Boy player, or Super Game Boy. Very. So yeah, that's about it. I'm just glad I got it working. Also, being a little too brave with the clock switch there, I do appear to have fried something in my circuit while switching it on the fly. However, it did work a couple times, and you could see a definite change in the pitch. So it was cool to see it on the fly. I wish I'd recorded it, but it definitely last time it crashed the game and made a real bad sound. Fortunately, it still works in the factory position, but the underclock circuit is no longer good. So got it on the test SNES here, and the old trusty multimeter says that thing is the frequency is not, it's putting out is not 4.1 whatever it's supposed to be. It's 2 point something. So I'm not sure how what kind of a horrible death it's suffered, but yeah, so I suppose I'm going to pop a new crystal in there, maybe replace capacitors too. They're cheap and easy, so yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, here's my real final iteration of this. I actually have it refined down now. I did end up adding the resistor back in, because that appears to be necessary for stability reasons. May work without it, but after a couple times, I don't know if it just gets a bit of transient higher voltage or something for a second, but it is, I've gone through yet another crystal now. Could be that I just have a bad batch of crystals. They're pretty cheap on eBay, so I don't know. Anyways, this is the actual final iteration. I have a slightly smaller circuit board in a slightly different location. And I've cleaned up the wire a little bit. That's a magnet wire, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that earlier, in case you're curious. So yeah, this is the actual final iteration. After fixing my my screw ups, and I'm still not sure if I'm confident enough to switch it on the fly, but maybe the resistor will give it enough stability to do that. I don't really want to mess with that though. Better, you might as well just turn it off. Turn off the console. So. Yeah, this is the final product, and I have my diagram here, and I didn't just add that resistor in there. 1 million ohm resistor. Thanks for watching.